The trapdoor beneath our feet swings open. We find ourselves in bottomless freefall. If it takes a little myth and ritual to get us through a night that seems endless, who among us cannot sympathize and understand? We long to be here for a purpose.
What we do with our world right now will propagate down through the centuries and powerfully affect the destiny of our descendants.
Well, so the thing about architecture is,
I doubt it'll be understood in the future. People, culture, the air, everything will be different in the future.
Architecture gives architects and people the power to literally create the world that they would like to live in.
I think we bring great value to the projects that we participate on, and it's something that kind of adds an element of beauty and civility to our society. I think
they do have a value. I think the architect's role has been somewhat diminished.
Everyone's a bit more well-rounded and information's more readily available. Not every job requires an architect.
Design is no longer one of the pieces of the pie. Design is the hub, and then the spokes are all of the other things, whether it's spec writing or contracts or resolving all the different other complicated things. But design was the thing that tied all of those different challenging aspects together.
because we all have this romantic idea of what an architect's life once was, but they're really just, I think, differences in professional and contractual arrangements.
I've seen a lot of engineers, for example, who think that all an architect contributes to a building is the colour scheme, otherwise they can do the rest.
Everything we do is design, and design doesn't finish until we hand the keys over.
The cumulative impact of all those things in a building becomes experience, and I think that's something that architects can continually contribute to.
Well, they don't know what good architecture is, they just see what they get out there.
They see something, they appreciate it, but they don't know why. But when you tell them the story that sits behind why things are the way they are, there's this kind of revelation.
Architect is just like, this is what we've designed based on all these conditions. That's what it should be at the end, and it never works out like that.
The role of the architect, first and foremost, is to design the buildings, but then through the construction process is to save the builders from themselves.
Here in the studio right now, we find ourselves frequently in a position where we're essentially a consultant or a subcontractor, where we're being kind of directly managed by people who don't understand at all what we do.
Probably 95% of our work is procured through Design and Construct. We're the most highly awarded architectural practice in Australia. So does that not mean that Design and Construct can still deliver good outcomes?
Yeah, DNC, so lump sum DNCs, where literally you just get a very skinny bit of documents and you go, okay, here's our price, and then it's our responsibility to manage it through there. So.
I've never been a fan of Design and Construct. I shouldn't say that because a fair chunk of our work is Design and Construct. I believe that the design integrity gets compromised.
Yes, it has the potential because the contractor's primary responsibility in delivering a project is to meet time and cost parameters, and they're also answerable to their shareholders. They've got to make money.
Yeah, I can't say I agree with it, for starters. But as a small practice, I do see the actual benefit in it, just because it's less responsibility for us.
That's a reality. That's what everybody's trying to do, get the mess out of their own backyard.
Because we're in this kind of effectively like a transitional moment potentially between this kind of environment where all these other parties are involved in the process, but there's still the historical idea that we're driving everything. I wouldn't even blame the developers for that. It's a political decision. But who do you blame for a political decision? Like, we're the public. We vote them in.
The fact that planning policy has allowed that to happen, not architects.
The connectivity between the planners and the politicians can be too strong, and the politicians are tied to a re-election every 3 or 4 years, and so they have an interest in that.
I believe the town planners at council level, at state level, whatever, are making too many design decisions when they had absolutely no qualification whatsoever.
What Australia's producing these days is pretty poor compared to the rest of the world.
I definitely, having worked overseas and in Europe, I definitely see the difference of respect that an architect has in the UK and Ireland in comparison to here. You know, you've got building designers and television shows like The Block where people just really don't see our value anymore.
The thing we haven't talked about is scope and fee and risk. So there are two things that are certain. Fees are never going to go up, and our timescales are never going to get longer.
And has affected me is the pace at which people expect things to be delivered is becoming more and more compressed.
We absolutely have to change. You know, fee levels are half what they were 6 years ago.
All of a sudden, competition and your lump sum, your percentage-based fees go straight down, and the whole thing goes to shit.
Education has been unrealistic. Education has not seen the nature of the thing we needed as a people.
Often saw students and graduates come to the office and they didn't know how to use a pencil, in my mind.
Not knocking trades, but that's the difference between a trade and a profession. A profession will have an academic side to it as well, and you can't separate those.
You're getting less and less in this next generation of, your complete all-rounder kind of architect.
I know a little about an awful lot, and I could be more influential, I think, if I knew a lot more about less.
But first I had to conquer the idea.
Well, it's changed. I'm not sure how much it's actually changed.
You know, where we are, the changes that we've had in the last 5 years in the industry, what we've seen before, we are at a point of change. It's very interesting.
There were guys who were dedicated draftsmen, and the architects supervise the work, manage the interface with the client, into the contract, whereas now he seems to be producing documentation.
Victor Hugo, the author, he said, this will kill that, and he was pointing at the book. He said the book will kill architecture, but architecture is still here. It didn't disappear, it transformed.
We should be considered as one of the senior professions, but we're not. We used to be, but we're not anymore.
I work for architects who have been architects, town planners, landscape architects, all that sort of stuff. So there's a fragmentation or a specialisation that's going on.
We run the risk as we start to, fragment the profession and just kind of little smaller tidbits of expertise that we start to dumb down the profession.
And our role is kind of increasingly getting marginalised. Our capacity to influence and connect with other critical people in the project teams, including clients and end users, is increasingly being marginalised as we go along. And
because of commercial pressure, is that certain elements of the process have fragmented. So, for example, we see project managers doing contract administration instead of architects. We see documentation houses doing documentation offshore because it's cheaper.
My idea was always we have to do something together. We have to pull the whole thing together. We have to destroy these separations between painting and sculpture and architecture and design and so on. It is all one.
All architects as members of their institute, of their professional body, need to champion the cause of architecture. And not just architecture, but the value of architecture in society.
And I think there's room there for, like Glenn says, for architects to be more collegiate in their approach rather than kind of what we're seeing now where there's a lot of individualism.
You need to have some strong people in governance.
Yeah.
And actually there's not that many people, I think, in architecture who, or it may have become so diluted It's very difficult to get the group to remain united.
There's that notion that, oh, you're an architect, you've got that label, you know, it's really highly valued within the greater community, but like within the industry, sometimes you're kind of finding that you're fighting for your place, you know, at the table, and maybe especially as a female.
So it's that kind of catch-22. The professional body's strong if you've got lots of architects, but if you've got lots of architects, the chance is you've probably got a looser skill set sneaks in. Therefore, you've got a potential for a lower quality of service.
Thomas Aquinas, he says, reason is the first principle of all human work. Under the influence of science and technology.
And technology isn't serving us well at all. Like at the moment, technology is creating more work for us.
I think it's caused confusion. The reality is that we don't yet exist in an environment where building information modelling is a reality.
You know, we've been drafting on computers since late 90s, and then you look between 2000 and 2017, what actually gets handed over as the package of communication to design to a build at a build, it looks exactly the same.
I think the dream of BIM was such a far. We're so far away from what the sort of imagined dream of BIM is.
It is probably helpful, I think, if you give a client your little camera and they feel like they're in your design, and that's probably very exciting. But I think at the end of the day, it's all down to you having a proper concept and a design that's followed through to what that client wants.
Immediately it's just like, well, I do the design, I don't want a computer doing the design for me, but the computer's a tool to actually come up with options that you may not have thought about. And I know this is like a bit of a bad statement because there's all these people that will lose their jobs, but if you look at manufacturing, they go from the concept, design, straight into manufacture, and it's just automated process. When you look at building, we don't do that. We basically dumb the information down so we can give it to somebody on site to actually build it.
Architecture as we know it is going to disappear. Architecture as we know it is going to disappear.
I would say that things are getting more complicated for us, for sure.
We're not going to be designing for people anymore. We're going to be designing for machines.
I think the next thing will be artificial intelligence.
It's too far-fetched for me.
I think you can still see threads that follow through.
Yeah.
And being clear and understanding what those threads are, if we hang on to those, that's what binds our future with our past.
AI having the potential to do a whole range of things, simply by us defining the parameters that influence outcomes. You can program outcomes.
Actually, what we'll find is we are just very minor players in the whole overall thing, and so it's pretty hard for an architect certainly if you're not of scale, to get involved in sort of significant projects.
Well, with great power comes great responsibility, so we also really have an amazing responsibility and opportunity to really create the world of our dreams.
Stop whoring ourselves out. We've got to, place a high value on our work.
I think just keeping that fire in your belly is really important, and not being afraid. Like, don't curb your enthusiasm, just embrace it. Have fun with it.
We have to be agile. We have to be really open to change.
Yeah, there's a place for grey hairs in this world. There's nothing like experience.
And I think as a profession, what would also help is if we were more collegiate and more working together more strongly to adapt and go forwards.
The only thing that's certain is uncertainty.
The evolution of architectural practice continues to transform. Architects are often habitual grazers just skimming the surface due to an overwhelming amount that influences our profession. So, Do we make the effort to adapt? Or should we reaffirm a confidence in our value to perform to our full potential?
We long to be here for a purpose, even though, despite much self-deception, none is evident.
Well, so the thing about architecture is